Hey Roadrunners, it's Miss Ryan. I'm really excited to share this story with you guys, watching the Macy's Day Parade. So here is a true story. It's a non-fake story, and it is called Balloons Over Broadway. It was written by Melissa Sweet, and this is the true story of the puppeteer of the Macy's Day Parade. So I hope that you guys enjoy this one. Balloons Over Broadway. So, Anthony Tony Frederick Sarg was born in 1880 and he died in 1942. And this part says, every little movement has a meaning of its own. All right. From the time of the little boy, Tony Sarg loved to figure out who. He once said he became a marionette man when he was only 6 years old. And my friends, marionettes are those puppets where each of their arms and legs has a string, and then the marionette man controls those strings to make the puppets move. His father had asked him to feed their chickens at 6:30 in the morning every day. Tony had an idea. What if he could feed the chickens without leaving his bed? He rigged a chicken to his bedroom window. That night, he spread the chicken feed outside the chicken coop. The next morning, Tony pulled on the rope and the door to the chicken coop opened. The chickens ate their breakfast. Tony stayed snug in his bed, and his dad, so impressed, never made Tony do another chore. That sounds like a dream to me. When Tony grew up, he discovered that no one was making marionettes for kids anymore. So, out of wood, cloth, and strings, Tony began to make puppets. He figured out ways to make his marionette movements so lifelike that they performed as if they were real. Word soon spread about Tony's amazing marionettes. When Tony moved to New York City, the Tony Sarg marionette began performing on Broadway, which is a really big deal. The Herald Square was the biggest store on earth, R.H. Macy's department store. Macy's paid for the store holiday windows. So Tony made puppets, attached them to gears and pulleys to make them move. So there's Humpty Dumpty. Here are the plans and the colors. In Macy's Wondertown windows, Tony's mechanical marionettes danced across the stage as if by magic. All day long, they performed to shoppers jostling, but Macy's had an even bigger job in store for Tony. Many of the people working at Macy's were immigrants, and as their own holiday traditions of music and dancing in the streets. Macy's agreed to put on a parade for their employees, and they hired Tony to help. Tony, too, was an immigrant. So he loved the idea of creating a parade based on street carnivals from all over the world. He made costumes and built horse-drawn floats, and Macy's even arranged to bring in bears, elephants, and camels from the Central Park Zoo. So you can see all of his plans. Hundreds of Macy's employees on Thanksgiving Day, 1924, winding Harlem to Herald Square. It was a dazzling parade. And here you guys can see the different floats and all of the people lined up to watch. In fact, success that they decided to have one every year on Thanksgiving Day to celebrate America's own holiday. Each year, the parade grew. But when Macy's brought in lions and tigers, in addition to the bears, elephants, and camels, the animals roared and growled and frightened the children. Tony, can you think of something spectacular? Okay. Macy's asked to replace the animals. Tony helped replace the animals with some kind of puppets. But his marionettes were less than 3 feet tall. How would he would have to make much larger puppets in order for them to be seen in the parade. strong enough to hold up in bad weather, yet light enough to move up and Tony knew of a company that made blimps out of rubber, the perfect material for any weather. When he called the company and showed them his sketches, they agreed to make what Tony wanted. Still, how could Tony make his big puppets move? See what a blimp looks like, and Tony's going to make something similar for his puppets. Then, Tony had an idea from an Indonesian rod puppet collection. On Thanksgiving Day, as high as 16 feet spilled into the streets, and the crowds cheered wildly. Part puppets, part balloon, the air-filled rubber bags wobbled down the avenues, propped up by wooden sticks. So my friends, here you can see some people in costume, and they have sticks attached to the puppet balloons, and when they move the sticks, they can make it walking. By now, the sidewalks were so packed with people that only those in the first few rows could really see the parade. Tony realized his puppets would have to be even bigger and higher off the ground. And though the sticks helped to steer the puppets, they were stiff and heavy. Tony wanted his balloons to articulate, to move and gesture like puppets. But how? A marionette. The controls are above and the puppet hangs down. So there's a marionette. There's like the balloon puppet here. But what if the controls were below and the puppet could rise up like a balloon? During the next year, Tony set his new idea into motion. This is Ohio to make balloons out of rubberized silk, as strong as rubber, but lighter than rubber alone. Most important, Tony ordered the balloons not to be filled not with just air, but with helium too. Since helium and air, it would make the balloons rise. Once the puppets were complete, they were deflated and shipped back to Tony in New York. Tony did not know if everything would go as planned. What if the balloons are overfilled with too much helium? What if it hits a sharp object? Will they fit under the L, the elevated train track? And you can see he's wondering and worried about all these things as he's painting. It was still dark on Thanksgiving morning when Tony filled the balloons with helium, tethering them down with sandbags. By 1 p.m., the sidewalks were packed with people ready for the parade. Then one by one, Tony cut the lines to the sandbags. Let's have a parade. And I know it's hard to see, but here's his big puppet. Here are the strings, and here are the people controlling it. And the magnificent upside-down marionettes rose up to the skies. Nodding and waving to the crowds below, they sailed past Central Park, they sailed down Broadway, they shimmied and swayed through the canyons of New York City. High above the crowds, they flounced in the afternoon wind, pulling the rope handlers this way and that. Yet with every heave-ho, the balloons gestured and articulated like wild puppets, and the crowd screamed for more. You can see them here high up above the buildings. After the balloons were eased under the L, they ended in front at Macy's, and Tony's Wondertown windows. It was a parade New Yorkers would never forget. And from that day on, every Thanksgiving morning, crowds have lined the sidewalks of New York City to see what new balloons would rise to the skies for Macy's famous parade. Tony Sarg, the puppeteer who loved to figure out how to make things move, had set the stage, with a little rigging for a puppet to be anything anyone could imagine it to be. And that's the end of our book. And I love this nonfiction book because it tells you more about the author and the different puppets. And It includes a bibliography where the author got its sources. Lots. Alright guys, I hope that you're having a great week. Thanksgiving's just around the corner. And now if you watch the Macy's Day Parade, you'll be able to share with friends and family exactly who Tony Sarg is and a little bit of its history. Bye, Roadrunners.